funnels and all the things that go into a really successful offer and a launch. And so I joined Jenn's program I think it was like a year and a half ago. And it's called, do you want to talk about the program at all? And I can tell you why.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. It's called Funnels to Freedom. So it is, I think it ran it the first time in fall of 2020, which is when you joined. So it is all about helping you understand funnel strategy and actually do the work. So I kind of call it like a get shit done program because it is about actually sitting down and doing the work. So there's like a 30-minute training and then a 60-minute like co-working, get it done Q&A session, because especially as copywriters, service providers, we tend to do our work last if it gets done at all. Right. So
like, oh, I'll just squeeze it in. That's on my list. I'm going to get it done today. I promise myself.
Exactly. Right. And then you get it done at like midnight. Yeah. Yeah. So it's all about actually like getting it done, but it's setting up your funnel strategy. And so it's going out and saying, okay, this is basically there's three kinds of funnels that every business needs, even one-on-one service providers. And it's a list building funnel, a live launch, and an evergreen funnel. And so this program helps you and like actually helps you go in and set up that list building funnel and live launch. That way at the end of it, you can launch something. So no, you launched, it was going to be a workshop and it's evolved. So we'll talk about that and what it is. But everybody launches something and that could be a one-on-one service. But the whole point of it is that you're no longer talking about it, thinking about it, saying, oh, I'll do that later. It's actually sitting down and getting it done over a 16-week period.
Yeah. And I think that was what was really attractive to me is it's like, when it comes to writing my own stuff, which is kind of the backbone of Whomp Whomp, wow, it's like, I don't sit down to do it, but I don't even know where to start with my own stuff, which is so funny because it is so similar to client work in terms of the structure. But I was like, I need someone who can like basically tell me what to write and when to write it and what goes out and how to position it in a way that throws my offer out there. And at the time, my offer was going to be a $97 workshop, which is great. I love those. And I have done a few of them since. But it's like for what I'm creating and for what the knowledge is, there's no way you can cram it into an hour. And so we were talking, and you helped my money mindset for one. You're like, no, your knowledge is worth way more than this. Let's dig in. So we actually sat down together on one of our one-on-one calls because at that time you had a VIP option and a basic course.
And like, a basic, right.
Everyone is a VIP, I think. And
yes. Yeah, it's set up. Everybody's a VIP. So everybody gets 2 one-on-one calls, or if they pay in full, they get 4. But yes. Yeah. And I think those can be super helpful, right? Because it kind of like we really are able to dial in on your offer and kind of walk through like, is this really what you want or what could be most helpful? Because I think it's very easy to underestimate ourselves, right? So I think that was the big issue there is like, I don't want to charge more than $97. So I'm going to cram it into this 1-hour session when really it was better served as a fuller course, which is what you have now.
Which is what I have now. Yeah. And I think I need that because I think with a lot of us, there's all these things rattling around in our heads that are insanely valuable to other people, but we don't know that because it's just part of the way that we see the world or part of our approach to doing things. Whether you're a copywriter, whether you're a VA, whether you're an OBM, whether you're any of these people who has this knowledge that you can drop and really help other people further their business forward. So yeah, so you told me, you were pretty blunt. You're like, this is worth way more. Don't waste your time with this little offer. You need to go bigger because what this is has a bigger potential transformation. And so I think we played with it and it was going to be 6 weeks and now it's a 3-week course with some add-on bonuses with the same. What's crazy is it's the same principle. So you're teaching people, here's the steps for the funnel. Here's the place that you need to be in your brain. Here's how to picture it. And by the way, here is like, it's almost like a Mad Lib style sales page and email sequence and all the things that go into it. And there's way more than Mad Libs, but it makes it so it's like, fill this in here. And then you can adjust it and tweak it to make it fit your own, which is very similar to the idea behind the Whomp Whomp wow worksheets. Cause it's like, here's what you need to be thinking. Now plug your answers to these in here. And now you have a USP, which was I did a live training on USPs last week. And you did a live training last week and this week on funnel strategy too.
Yeah. So it's all about funnel strategy and kind of really breaking down, like definitely about funnel strategy. But to me, the biggest issues we have when we talk about funnels is like everybody thinks they're gross or skeezy, like they don't like the word funnel to begin with, or they don't even know what it is. So I basically define a funnel as like an automated way of building a relationship that ultimately leads to a sale. So the workshop was kind of all about defining that and saying, okay, this is what it is. These are the 3 major types of funnels, which, as I said earlier, is list building, live launch, and evergreen. And then how you really need to set up your strategy for all of that. Because I've worked with like big, like 8-figure coaches and clients that did not have that strategy in place, and they were hemorrhaging like thousands of dollars on Facebook ads, and like they could have made so much more money. Like, sure, they were successful, but they realized looking back, oh my God, like we've given up so much money over the years because we didn't have that strategy in place to the beginning, because we're told like throw up a lead magnet, throw up this, like do an ugly launch and just like throw it out there. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with any of those, but it's all more successful if you actually have a strategy behind it and know, okay, if I build up my audience before I do that kind of ugly launch, I'm going to get a lot more success than if I just like throw it up to nobody.
Right. And I think, and I almost think someone has to do, a lot of people think they have to do that and see how it can go wrong before they can go in. And you've broken it down to, you've cut out all the fluff, basically. You've said, here is what you need. And maybe it is a lead magnet that you're using to build your audience. Maybe it's a different method, and that's okay. Whatever that method is fine. But here's how to make the most of that instead of
And that's the thing, is like, it doesn't have to be exactly what people have told you. It doesn't have to be a lead magnet, your emails, and this other thing. It could be, it's the tiny offer, the self-liquidating offer, whatever that looks like. It could be a paid workshop, whatever it is. You're bringing people in and growing that email list, because you have to have an audience. You have to have an audience to launch anything. Even if you're like a one-on-one service provider for copy, like you have to have some sort of audience or no one's going to buy from you. Like, even if you're based on referrals, like you have an audience out there that's watching you, even if you don't realize it. And you have to like find them and build that up.
And I think, so one of the biggest things that I remember as a takeaway is you don't have to have a huge list to launch successfully.
Exactly.
So I think you said your first launch was around 200 people. Personally, is that right?
So the list started at 200, and then I ended up growing it. I had like 500 people sign up for my challenge. So like I grew the list quite a bit during that launch. But yeah, initially it was a very low list. And I've worked with people that they do have a small list, even if they are bigger coaches. I know some that are like super cutthroat, and they're like, if you haven't opened my emails in like 2 weeks, you're gone. And so they're like always culling people off of their list, but that means they have a more engaged list. So even if you could have 10,000 people on your list, but if they're not paying attention to you, it doesn't matter if nobody's buying. I think there was it a big podcaster, or maybe it was a TikTok star. And this guy has like 50 million followers on TikTok, and he created a Patreon. He had 54 people follow him, like sponsor him on Patreon, which is like, I don't even know the math of that, but it is a
that's like less than 1%. Which
by a lot. Yeah. And like 1% is standard conversion, but I've seen it up to 20 or 30% off an email list. It just depends on really how focused you are on building the right people in your audience. Like, how focused are you on, are these the right people coming and joining my email list, or am I just like a fire hose, like spreading it everywhere? And so there's different strategies around that. You could have a ton of people and have different offers, or you can really narrow down. And so we can work with either one, because the way I teach funnels is essentially it's the same basic framework, but you have to tailor it to fit you and your audience and your business. So it's the same basic format, but it's different strategies of how we actually go about like growing it and adding offers and that kind of thing.
Well, and what I loved really about our calls is you were able to take what I was saying, and in a space of probably 15 minutes, you were able to map out all the pieces that I needed, which was because you had it in your head. You said, this is what you need. And then we validated it to say, does this feel good? Because if it doesn't feel good, that's obviously not right. So I think, that was so helpful. And then in turn, so what's been really cool is I've learned from you, and I've been able to not just do it for myself, but to do it for other clients as well, so you're launching right now. Your doors are open right now to Funnels to Freedom again. And that's one of kind of the messaging pivots that you made, is you can do it yourself, or you can learn what you need. The process is the same. And I think, it's really valuable to apply it to a project that you're actually working on, which is why doing your own is so beneficial. But if you don't have one, maybe you have a client who's getting ready to launch and you want that hand holding. And
Right. And I mean, yes, but also I want people to launch too. That's the thing. I want service providers to understand that you can launch a new service. You can relaunch an existing service. You can package it up so it comes off a little differently, even though you're doing the same thing or maybe better. But when you position it, and especially if you're adding in like I'm learning funnel strategy, I'm going to launch this new service where it's going to be I know how to write launch copy now because I actually understand what goes into it. I think that's a lot of issues. I think you have probably quite a few copywriters in your audience, but specifically as a copywriter, we have people hire us and say, okay, I need 7 emails. And you're like, okay, like what's the offer? Like you have to like get all this information out of them, right? What's the goal? What are our bonuses? So you're doing a lot of that stuff anyway, but you don't have a full understanding of the strategy. So when you have that, you can say, okay, what are our bonuses? Do we have a mid-cart bonus? Do we have a pay in full bonus? What are all of these offers? And then you understand, okay, we need these kind of emails to front load the sequence. We need these on the back end. We'll have the mid cart to get kind of people talking in the middle of it. And so it's finding that I think can be so unique and so beneficial to one-on-one providers. Even if you're not a copywriter, if you're a VA, then you can better understand, okay, this is how it works. You can learn the tech side, which is what I don't understand and what I don't do well. And I hire people and have guest experts teach on that. But actually understanding the strategy behind it means you have a better understanding of saying, okay, this is why we need to connect lead pages to active campaign and like make everything work and talk together. So that strategy helps you no matter where you're at. And as I said, you can package that and launch it. So the program starts in March and runs through June, and June is when you'll actually launch it. They'll be hand-holding and helping you do it. And so if you're a one-on-one provider, you can launch that new thing and say, hey, this is like my new kind of productized service of like writing launch copy. And so we front load it with a strategy session. So that's what I do with all of my clients is we have that initial funnel strategy and mapping session to actually map it out so I understand what they need. Because a lot of times people hire you and say, okay, I need 7 emails. And it turns out they actually need 10 emails and a landing page or even a sales page, because you get into it and you're like, well, that sales page is terrible. If I can write these emails for you,
because it's going to be more
right, if it's going to drive them to the sales page and the sales page isn't going to convert, you're wasting your money. So like you're able to help them understand that and actually see, okay, this is exactly what we need. And then have them hire you to actually go in and create it. And so, I think that's the biggest pivot, because I had several copywriters do both rounds of my program. And I think that it helped me realize how, and copywriter and designer, and there was quite a few people that they were able to finally see, oh, this is how I could use it with my clients. And it helps you command higher rates and do different packages. And it can be just super helpful for anybody, whether you're wanting to launch a course or program or not.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is, and it's funny who we see things maybe being for and who actually is the one who's like, oh, I see this other application of this. So I think that's a really interesting pivot. And I think you're spot on. Obviously I went through it. I think you're amazing. I think the course is amazing. And without that, I don't think I certainly wouldn't have Whomp Whomp to Wow. Without you, I would not have Whomp Whomp to Wow, because I would be pushing towards this $97 offer, which is fantastic, by the way. But it has allowed me to create an ecosystem that I didn't even see as a potential, 18 months ago. And now there's Whomp Whomp, there's going to be the snack bar, there's going to be these other pieces that all tie in together. And so I think it speaks to the value of having another strategic brain who can look at your stuff from the outside and say, that's fantastic, but what if? And it's like, well, so, and you're a fantastic coach. And I don't know. I'm glad that you're my friend now too.
Yeah, absolutely. But I love what you said about like an ecosystem, because I think that's how I view it, right? Because we sit down and map out usually like there's 3 basic funnels, but they all tie into each other and they can grow and like become this like huge ecosystem. So even if I'm working with people that have like giant different funnels in place, I kind of go in and I look at it and say, hey, stop. Like, let's break it down. These are the 3 basic ones. And then how can we branch out and have all of these other offers that you have? But it all starts with that basic foundation, right? To go in and build out that ecosystem.
Absolutely. So where can people go to learn more about Funnels of Freedom and you and what you're doing here?
Yeah, so funnelstofreedom.com is the place to go to find more about that, or jennrobbins.com if you want to just find about me in general. And that's Jenn with 2 N's and Robbins with 2 B's.
Awesome. Well, I will make sure to update the post. We're live on Facebook, we're live on LinkedIn, we're live on YouTube, and then we'll download it and upload to Instagram as well. So I'll make sure that all those links are in there. And Instagram, it's always more tricky, but we'll make it work. And yeah, so I'm really, really excited for your program because I think
I'm excited for yours too.
Well, thank you.
Your website's part of it, right? Like to me, your website's part of that funnel ecosystem, because a lot of times on the website, it's like leading them into the funnels too. So you kind of you could have one without the other, but in an ideal world, you have both.
In an ideal world, you have both. And it's funny, that's when people come to me one-on-one, they often come in and say, I need a website, I need website copy. I have no idea what to say. And so that's when they come in. And so we may get into market research, we may get into brand positioning before we can even do the website copy, because if they're not as clear on what that is, but then it's like, cool, you've got a website, now what are you going to do? How are you going to not only build this online funnel, even if it's not building to anything other than your one-on-one services right now? And I think that's the biggest thing. Like the process of client acquisition is a funnel because you can automate it. And I think, I have a client who's like, oh, my business isn't right for funnels. And it's like, it actually is. And
every business is right for funnels.
Help you get there. So, right. I mean, and I think so we come in and we do the website copy, and sometimes they're like, I just want to write my own, which is why it's interesting. When I first created Whomp Whomp, it was going to be this entry-level point for people who wanted to work with me, but weren't ready to invest in a copywriter. It's like, cool, let's get you something that you can launch with right now that's good enough to move the needle for you. And then as you're moving forward, then we can work together one-on-one. But the people who ended up getting the most value out of it were also other copywriters, website designers who see it all the time. They do this for other people, but getting out of their own way, or maybe looking to build more structure into the process, is the people who have had the most benefit, because they want to write their own web copy. People like you and me, we have a really hard time letting go of our own writing, even though we don't always do it without the accountability and the co-working time, because we want that thumbprint. We want that final stamp. And no matter what anyone else writes for us, we're still going to edit it tons, because it's just, and I think we all expect that at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, it's like that hand holding, that key piece, that accountability and hand holding is really valuable. And so are you, and this is a loaded question, I know I've made my USP webinar. Lots of people who asked and didn't show up or didn't know about it in time. If people are interested in the webinar, can they approach you for more information on that? Or
yeah, it's still available. So I did a live version of it yesterday morning and forgot to hit record. So I had to redo the entire thing with no audience. So I had to do it. I've done it 3 times now. So yes, it's available to anybody that wants it. I'm making the replay available, I think, till tomorrow night. So you can still go to, and I don't have a fancy link for that because GoDaddy wasn't cooperating, but you can go to my website and it's still up there. Like there's still like a place to opt in, and you can opt in and get the information for it there. So yeah.
And so Funnels to Freedom is open through Friday.
Through Sunday, but it may extend a little bit because we've had some tech issues in the workshop. And so I may, because we don't start till March 7th. So I may leave the doors open a little bit longer. We'll see. I haven't decided yet, but I hate like closing it a week early. And then I don't know, there's a big issue. I feel like, and we've talked about this before, I think, of like urgency, like what's fake urgency and what's real urgency. And like when you actually have like doors that open and close because you're starting the program, it makes sense. But I'm like, do I need to close them a week early? So anyway, that's the thing that I'm processing.
Well, and last time that I launched in October, I was like, well, we'll just close them like the Friday before. It'll be fine. But I found that my brain was in such launch fatigue that it was this big leap for me to get ready by Monday, even though I had all the materials ready. So this year I am also starting March 7th with Whomp Whomp. But my website was down yesterday and it was insane. Someone messaged me on Instagram and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Frantically, like only the homepage was up. Every other page, including the Whomp Whomp sales page, was down. And I'm like, well, and so by 3:00, I didn't have a resolution. So it's like, fine, I'll just send my list a quick email, give them the Google page, which is not fancy at all. But it's like, you have to have some way that you can go for more information. So It's one of those things. So I'm also thinking about extending the window for that very reason. Because if people can't actually go to the site and learn more, there's not a whole heck of a lot that.
Well, and that's the thing about launching is like you can have the best laid plans and you can have a solid strategy, but sometimes you get into it and like shit breaks and you got to just deal with it. Or kids are home because you have snow days. And so like that's, you have a strategy, but you also have to be able to pivot and like understand what's happening and make adjustments as you go. So you can have a plan, but best laid plans. So definitely totally okay to change.
Or Starlink goes down and you don't have internet anymore.
Did Starlink go down?
Oh, isn't that? No, you're buying Starlink, right?
I'm buying Starlink. Yes. No, my internet's been down. It's supposed to be delivered tomorrow, but we are having like, there's like a layer of ice and sleet. So we'll see if they make it, but it's supposed to be here tomorrow.
Well, fingers crossed for you for that. We're finally sunny again here. So hopefully our layer of ice. So cool. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I will again pop links in here. If you want to message me any links, I will make sure that they get live. Awesome. And I had fun. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And we'll